Animaniacs 2020, Season 1, Episode 9. Okay, the lesser of the two evils today. 10, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna rep on because it's just awful. Um, see.
I had four skits in that one.
Yeah.
uh, yeah. Here comes trouble. It's
I thought you'd like that one.
that one is good. Yeah, that one's
All the
fine.
music jokes,
That one works. Uh,
all the jokes, and they referenced Fantasia, which I found hilarious.
yes,
And I liked it because In the Hall of the Mountain King is one of my all-time favorite songs.
yes, it was very good, and you can tell. I wonder if they they actually got in touch with whoever does their music and just like, okay, if you could pick music to put in an episode, doesn't really matter if it fits or not, because we'll just write around it. Just give us a few pieces that you like, and we'll do that. And it works quite well. It's a very classic sort of Warner Brothers style cartoon. There's an uptight person trying to be all snooty, and so that gives the
They're
Warners
fucking over
carte
his.
blanche to be the Warners. Which I find it always reminds me of the episode where they explain the comedy rules. Like they have to provoke us somehow. We can't hurt her. She's just trying to be genuinely nice at all times. That there's a Sound of Music or something. There's that. I forget what the episode was, but it was basically based on uh, the Sound of Music, and I really enjoyed um,
The classic feel of this episode.
the fact that it was sort of um, it sort of poked in at itself. It is like, yes, this is how the rules work. Yeah. Episode 78, The Sound of Warners, Yabba Dabba Boo. The first. Yeah. But yeah, she's just genuinely being super nice. And so they can't whack her with a mallet or do anything to her because she's not done anything to provoke them. She's just being super nice, annoyingly nice, and it's like, yes, it's that classic, but it's just a very classic cartoon. This one's fine. This one's good. This one's good music. You got fun visuals. Yeah, yeah, no problem with Here Comes Trouble. It's really good. Um, then we get to That's Not the Issue.
That's not the issue.
It works. It works. It's fine. It's mostly non-political. Um, they take shots at Fox News, but really you could put anybody in that slot and it would work just as well.
Also, how can anybody not take shots at Fox News by this point?
Who cannot take shots at CNN at this point?
True.
MSNBC. I mean, how long did they rail on that
And
Russiagate for like 3 years? And it's just like, oh yeah, Miller. Nope, there was nothing. It was like some ad buys.
taking shots at major news sources is kind of obvious at this point.
Yeah, it's low hanging fruit considering public trust in traditional media is at a low we've not seen, and I don't know that we've ever seen. Like I think it's sub 50% or something. Like of people in general don't trust traditional media. So yeah, so it's not. I mean, they could have done the same thing with CNN. They could have. I mean, I guess Fox News it plays into their political leanings, and I think it's a little easier to make fun of Fox in terms of a name with faux news.
Yeah, not
It
only that, but I mean, Fox News is generally the most like satirized of the news sources.
Yeah,
Like
because generally
7 are the
most
top
media is
satirized
left leaning,
ones.
so who are they going to
Yeah,
attack?
yeah, but I mean, Fox and CNN are the most satirized of them, and considering their leaning, they'd of course go to Fox.
Yeah,
Of the
if
two,
you're right, you're going to go after MSNBC or CNN. If you're on the left, you're going to go
aren't
after
they the
Fox.
same thing? The same owners,
Uh,
MSNBC and CNN.
no, I don't think so.
I don't.
MSNBC is
I don't.
NBC. CNN is owned by AT&T, which I
I
think
don't know.
is
I don't. I don't have cable. I don't watch the news. I
yeah.
find it
It's
all
just I
ridiculous.
think that's the case because I think they were at a time they were considering selling CNN, though I don't know who would buy. But yeah, I think AT&T is I forget what CNN's under. I'd have to look, but yeah, they're not owned by the same people. I think even in the sale of Fox, much of Fox to Disney, I think Fox still holds separate. I think sports and news; those are separate entities from or a separate entity from the Fox that was sold off to Disney. So most of Fox is with Disney. Sports and news are a separate thing, and then I think sports and news are separate. I feel free to say something in the comments. I'm just going off of memory at this moment. But yeah, yeah, they. But I mean, it's not. I mean, if they replaced this with the CNN host, it would. They didn't actually get very political, despite ostensibly being sort of a political thing. It's more a commentary on news, and to a certain extent, if you expand that to be more than just Fox News and expand that to also being CNN, MSNBC, and basically any other traditional news outlet these days who are sort of rage bait to keep people watching and don't really care about whether they what they tell people is true or not. They just care if it keeps the dials up, you know, that sort of thing. If you kept that, if you expand that, then it works. But um, it does just focus on Fox News on this one. But if we expand that to basically any traditional media outlet these days, or traditional news outlet,
Honestly, I don't watch Fox News, so it honestly looked like a generic news thing to me, aside from the name Faux News,
yeah, I
which
know. I'm just saying,
just takes pot shots at the fake news concept.
but
So
yeah, I'm just
to
saying,
me, it just was any generic news
yeah,
station with those stupid editorials that they're constantly putting of this is my opinion and you should listen to me because I'm on the news. And
yeah.
all
It's
those
just
stupid
it's
things that
explicitly going
every
after Fox News, but if
news
we
channel.
also imply others, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, it explicitly goes after Fox News, but if we infer that this also counts for everything else, then yeah, this works. Because they're all ridiculous at this point.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I know Fox News, but I think another news agency also is being sued by the guys who created the polling thing for their constant saying it was rigged
well,
to the
because there's been like people have like in New Hampshire they did a hand recount and they found that there were 300 votes that had been like it's like a city or something. It was a very small thing, and like 300 votes had been switched or had been thrown away from Republicans in like a city or something. I forget. I think it was a rather small area. It might have been bigger, but like there've been several little places where you've seen people rerun. Like I think in Arizona, they also reran like a sample. They ran a sample set through the Dominion machines and found that they were putting out. They were being switched. Votes were being switched in that. Um, if I've heard that story correctly. I mean, these are vagaries, but yeah, it's not like it's out there. It's they've run these machines and they haven't come back exactly pristine, and some of them were connected to the internet. Like in one of these sort of meetings they had to sort of talk about what was the voting irregularities at one of the like I forget where it was, but they live hacked into a voting machine on right there during the meeting. They were live looking at a voting machine because it was hooked up to the internet and it shouldn't be. Um, they were able to do that, and you know it shouldn't. It should be like the software is cleared by people from both sides, and then the software is locked down, not hooked up to the internet, so they can switch things up. Now, you know, we'll probably never get an investigation because the people who won the election wouldn't want them investigated. Oh yeah, and Pennsylvania burned the envelopes for the mail-in ballots, but or not burned but destroyed, I think. But yeah, there's a lot of voting irregularities. So yeah, saying oh it was rigged, there's some real big voting irregularities. Like some areas had more than 100% voting, which yeah. So yeah, there's more to it than just oh this is just conspiracy theories. No, there was some things there that weren't right. But enough of my rant. They opened the door with this politics garbage, and that's got me on a rant. Let's move on to Future Brain. Did I lose everybody?
You lost me about 20 minutes ago. Sorry, what were you talking about?
Yeah.
Anyway, I just went on a rant about.
Yeah, no, I was teasing you.
Okay, just
You
making
were
sure.
going on one of
Because
your political
with the
rants, so
technical
I'm just
difficulties
like,
we have sometimes, it's hard to tell sometimes whether I genuinely lost you for a few minutes and I was talking into the void, or
well,
I
we're
just want to make sure you're all good.
because when you start political rants, Madrock and I just stop paying attention.
And I pay attention.
So you did lose us, but we were still present enough to know when you shut up. So
yeah. But yeah, that just annoys me. Anyway, okay, so we get Future Brain, which is basically if they wrote an episode about how Pinky is like.
we've discussed.
Yeah,
this
we've talked
before.
about this about Pinky being actually one being the genius and Brain being the insane one, and like this series
We
has this season has really sort of thrown huge logs onto the fire with that, given his robot and this.
yeah, and his wife.
Yeah, it's just here, let's throw some logs onto the fire here for this theory, and this one those even more. Which, you know, it's interesting with the uh, uh, with the shoot one of them and he can't tell them apart. Like if he did send modern Brain somewhere, could Future Brain coming back be the reason why modern brain gets sent somewhere else. If he had shot the wrong brain. Do you hate temporal mechanics?
Do I hate temporal mechanics? No. Or does Pinky hate temporal mechanics? Because
Because
I think, huh?
Go ahead.
Because I think his reaction to that is, I think so, but I didn't know that they had an issue for that.
But why would we care about how they fry time?
No, I think so, but isn't that how they built the pyramids?
I was going for more of a tempura joke, but that works too.
Like he'd know what temporal means.
Tempura.
So
The
temporal
fry.
sounds like oh,
Maybe not
mechanic.
take on time, but like, isn't that how they fry things in Japan or something like that? Something like that joke.
Oh,
So,
tempura.
yeah,
Okay,
confuse it
I
with
get it.
tempura.
I just wanna. I gotta get a hold of Pinky's recipe.
I think maybe the temporal mechanics is how his mom made those tinfoil sandwiches. La la la. Just like me mom used to make. Although, I mean, that would imply that his mom was sentient like he was, although technically he was modified, genetically modified.
Yeah, his
So
genes
he's
have
a
been spliced.
yeah. So he's a first generation sentient. So his
Or he
mom
could
could
be a second generation and they tried to take another go at it.
maybe. Or he was adopted by some other sentient mice from a prior experimentation, and they were all put together, and it's like, oh, cute little baby mouse. I'm gonna raise you as my own. So
Yeah.
he called her mom, even though she wasn't his biological
Yeah.
mother.
And given the short reproductive cycles of mice, either option is not out of the question.
True. I mean, according to the original, weren't they only like 3 years old?
I don't
I think
remember.
in one of the original episodes, he said he was 3 years old. So
Hmm.
And then,
which is actually pretty old for mice.
yeah. Well, considering how long they've been around now.
Although there is that question of temporal flux, and considering their animation, they're still the same age, kind of like how The Simpsons been around for 30 odd years and they're still
Yeah, their
children.
background keeps shifting.
Yeah.
It's like, no, they got together in the 80s. No, they got together in the 90s. No, they got together in the 2000s. It's
I
whatever
mean, I don't
happens to
like
be
The
makes
Simpsons.
sense for the time.
Yeah, I don't even like The Simpsons, but I'm using that as a reference because it's so long lived that
Yeah,
it makes sense.
yeah. They're yeah. Anyway, and then we get
Or even the Animaniacs themselves, because they were created in the 50s, but 60 years later, they're still kids. Or no, 70 years later now.
it might have been the 40s.
No, it said 1950 in their
Yeah.
tombstone at the beginning.
Okay. Yeah. I remember it was somewhere
Because
in that
during
area.
the Our Careers Have Made Comebacks, where they're climbing out of the grave, it said 1950 to 1998.
I thought
Okay.
it said 1930.
No, I checked twice. With
Okay.
both.
And okay, and then we go into the incredible gnome in people's mouths. I mean,
It's DiMaggio.
it's it's
Bender,
yeah,
the guy who voices Bender.
it's original. I'll give them that. It's something other than the Warners and Pinky and the Brain, so I'll give them credit for that. But it is quite
They,
bizarre.
well, yes, but the last episode they had a next gen Elmira with the alien in the sandbox guy.
Well, to be honest, I didn't. When when I wasn't going to do the review last week, I didn't watch it. Didn't watch it all the
You
way through.
liked it because they actually had like non-political episode.
Yeah, I just so burned with this series, this season right now. Just like, I'll get through it for the review. I can occasionally get surprised by a nice thing. It's the gnome in people's mouths. It's the sort of weirdness you expect from Animaniacs, but it's fresh. It's maybe even a little weirder than usual for that. But then again, you got Chicken Boost, so that's sort of your old guidepost for whether something is weird enough to be an Animaniacs.
And Katie Kaboom.
And yeah, Katie Kaboom actually came up, and I was actually thinking about that when I saw it. I was like, yeah, this is a side character. This is a character that's not going to come up very often, but will come up whenever they have an idea for the incredible gnome in people's mouths.
Yeah.
Like,
brush your teeth.
I think the voice actor of choice for that one was well done too, because he has such a great like angry tone to him. It just makes the character that much more fun.
It does.
That you're welcome. He sounds angry even when he's being nice.
So, did the gnomeness give him the immortality he wanted?
Apparently, either
That's
that or
good.
I mean, otherwise he'd probably be decomposing from all the saliva and stuff on him, because saliva has enzymes that break things down. Also, he must have some sort of dimensional transcendentalism or something to him that allows him to fit into smaller spaces. Because how else would he live in somebody's mouth?
He would make a
Can't even, I don't know about you guys, but I can't even fit my fist in my mouth. Not
he
that I've
would
tried
make a
recently, but I
he
would
would make a good 24-hour dentist.
make
How dare he use her only for her pinball machine?
I know. And she is such a desperate girl. Being willing to pay for all of their meals and marrying him on the spot just because he was okay with her weird things sounds a little desperate to me.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I kind of expected it to end with a female gnome popping off his mouth.
With the what?
With a female gnome popping out of his mouth.
And they're
Going
gonna
like,
save
well,
that for later. This is gonna be this is a Katie Kaboom. Like, I think that's what if this rings popular enough, they'll do that. I'm not sure how popular it is. It's
Well, I
not
mean,
like the best thing ever, but it's not the worst thing ever. So it's sort of in the middle there. So it might get just Katie Kaboomed, and you rarely see it, but it'll pop in every once in a while.
well,
And
they
it,
are having a second season.
yeah. So I mean, I don't know if or when it'll pop in, but yeah, It does, and it also seems like it's a Animaniacs is an interesting thing this season because it's it's kind of scatterbrained on who it's aiming for. Like, is it a kid show with a nudge nudge and a wink wink to the adult audience, or is it full blown? This is for the adult audience that grew up with it as a kid, and we'll throw in some kid jokes too. Like it seems to swerve a little bit. It doesn't really stick to one or the other. But and this one's more adult humor. Like
Yeah,
it's not that it's the kid couldn't laugh at a gnome popping out of somebody's mouth, but
it's not adult humor as in
yeah,
naughty. It's adult humor like tax jokes.
yeah, it's a joke that a kid, not that a kid would be scarred by, or would be bad for the kid to hear it,
It's
just
not
that the kid
child
wouldn't get it.
appropriate. It's just over their
Yeah, it would
heads.
be, yeah, and that was the whole thing. I don't think one criticism I would give for this is I don't know that there's enough. This is this is like, instead of the kids jokes with jokes where everybody can enjoy, and then a couple nudges for the adults. This is very much more jokes over the kids' heads with maybe a couple for the kids, thrown in there. The balance is weird with this. Um, which, if this was in a different show, a show that was more doing sort of not adult as in raunchy, but like you said, adult as in sort of over the heads of kids, tax jokes sort of humor.
Mm-hmm.
If this was in a show that did more of that was more based on that, I think this would, or if this was a standalone YouTube series, I think this could work a lot better. I think this works a lot better as maybe a standalone YouTube series. Like somebody
Yeah.
comes out with these periodically, because I don't know that it really fits the Animaniacs sort of humor style, because it throws the balance the wrong way. But I think it's fine in and of itself. But I think it
Yeah, but they've
misses
been
the
doing that
Animaniacs
a lot
balance.
in the reboot.
Sorry, what?
They've been doing that a lot in the reboot, throwing
Yeah,
it off like.
yeah. But yeah, this is sort of, if you do it with Animaniacs core characters, your Warners and whatnot, then I'm also going to give you that criticism. But this thing, it doesn't work at all, because the Animaniacs doesn't really, it doesn't work that way. And so, but as an independent character that's sort of unreliant on the Warners or anything else, as just a separate thing, this could work as a separate, like, short form sort of entertainment, but cut off and done on its own. But the Animaniacs doing the jokes that are, too political, or they've shifted the balance too much the other way, then those just don't work, because then it's the Animaniacs but done the wrong way. This has its own opportunity. Like, if it was cut off and sent on its own, would still work, because it's not so tied to the Warners and all that. And I've silenced the crowd again.
Huh?
I said I've silenced the crowd once again.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was having dark chocolate espresso beans. My mouth was full.
Ah, I guess I start talking. You're just like, all right, it's gonna be a while.
Yeah, I just generally try to wait till everybody's quiet so I can say my words.
All right,
Which
say your words.
pumpernickel.
How dare
Dude, I'm trying to eat. Oh my gosh.
you?
How could you?
Uh, let's see. Anything else about this lovely episode? Is Dot too young to be hitting on people?
Yes.
I'll tell her that.
Although my nephew has been flirting since he was 2, so
Oh, ladies' man.
his first word was literally "hey" while he was sitting in a stroller at the hospital during my dad's chemo. This pretty girl walked by and he's like, "Hey."
So here's something funny. Even though I saw it like written in the sky 3 times by jets, I've totally forgotten his name.
Tuck
Tuck.
Buckerson?
Oh yeah, okay, Tuck. Tucker. Tucky. Tuckaroony.
Although when she said Bucky, I was picturing a dude with a metal arm, but
You got a metal arm? That's so cool. There's usually not
Yeah.
this much talking.
ooh, that metal arm is really muscular. Dot, no.
Well, before we start the next one, let me just say,
Although
Yep.
now I just pictured Magneto because 20th Century Fox is now owned by Disney. You know it's just a matter of time before the X-Men pop in.
Oh, I'm sure
Magneto
they
and
have
Bucky,
that.
like, why you
They-
hitting yourself? Why you hitting yourself?
Yeah.
well,
Though, to be honest, Magneto's getting harder and harder to do because, like, what his origin stories are.
I know. Like, I honestly have not seen any of the new guys. The last one I saw was X3, I think it was, Dark, the one where Famke Janssen's Phoenix goes evil and tries to take over the world. And Wolverine Origins. I don't remember which one came first, but Wolverine Origins kind of killed the X-Men franchise for me because that movie was shit.
yeah, that's
And
a lot.
they my Deadpool a dirt. So
But yeah, Magneto's just becoming harder and harder to do.
I know because he was originally supposed to be during World War II as a
Yeah.
Jewish refugee.
No, as a
Holocaust.
he was in the camps. That was
Yeah,
his origin story. And
exactly.
so that plays heavily into the way he sees mutants versus other people as well. And that whole thing is a core part of his character, and it's becoming harder and harder to explain why he's still around and still in such good shape. Like, I guess they'd have to give him some sort of rejuvenation treatment or something to make him young again, so that he still makes sense despite historical things, but sort of a Ra's al Ghul sort of thing. But I know that's the wrong company, but same idea.
For now, until Disney buys them.
That point that one might get into monopoly territory, and they might actually say no, you can't do that. They maybe they absorbed Fox, so that's not out of the question that they'd let them do that too. But I think we've gone far enough on episode 9, and now to episode 10.
Yeah, let me just get ready so I don't get blown back from the giant sigh.
Okay.